Ready? Hey, everybody. Welcome to the 54th meeting of this PPP thing. Who would have thought, Jack and Adam, how long we'd be going, at this point in time. I want to give a shout out to Clean Juice. They're getting these biceps extra large for me with the juice and the protein shot that I'm doing. So, really looking forward to what happens, today with all you guys. And we'll see. Adam, how do you want to start this thing off?
Are we on? Oh.
Yeah.
Everybody, happy April Fool's Day. Oh my gosh. I tried growing out a beard and it's a lot more gray. So I wasn't doing a very good Adam impersonation. And I can guarantee you I could not hold a candle to him or Jack when it comes to content. So if you would, remember, use that Q&A button for all the questions and you can harass us in the chat. And boy, we've already got somebody. Oh, Lisa, thank you. She got it. Oh my goodness. Yes, this is not just the 54th. This is the 54th week because the first 5 months we did 2 of these a week. Oh my. Well, happy April Fools. It's one of my favorite holidays. And just so everybody knows, I'm going to kick this off and then I'm going to throw it over to both of you guys, and probably you first, Adam, because you'll probably want to rant on this one. But, we've been frustrated for a while, and we still are. The fact that North Carolina has not complied with the feds and the bulk of the other states on the forgiveness or the deductibility of the expenses for PPP. And so today, well, a few weeks ago, I'd sent a note to the Charlotte Regional Business Alliance, and we got a note back today, and I hope it's not an April Fool's joke, but here's what it said. Good morning, Gary. Thank you for the note about PPP deductibility. There are a number of proposals floating around Raleigh about this issue. We actually expect another proposal either today or next week. We're having regular conversations with our peers across the state and with legislators about this issue. Thanks for reaching out about this important issue. So keep the heat on them, but I hope it's not an April Fool's joke. So Adam, I'm sure you have a thought or two about that.
Yeah, so I asked Gary to then subsequently, hey, copy me on the response that you have, thanking him for the response, and then I'm going to go to town, which I did. Because it really is just, I think, for those of you guys that know Senator Tillis's background, he started as a Cornelius Town Commissioner and then was elected to the General Assembly as a representative before he became Speaker of the House of North Carolina. So I had the opportunity to hear him speak in his first year as my local representative since I live in Davidson. And he just joked about how hard it is to get anything passed. He's like, yeah, I introduced a bill in the committee and then it went here. And that's the place where things go to die, which is pretty much what appears to have happened so far with all the discussions related to the deductibility of PPP expenses in North Carolina. And I only say that anecdotally because I included a link to a Tax Foundation article that has been monitoring the state by state PPP expense deductibility. And, we're still down to 1 of 19 states that hasn't done anything. But at the end of the article, they give a summary of the 19 states that haven't done anything. Here's the status of what they are doing. And there's about 6 or 7 of them who are actually taking action in terms of making something happen on the deductibility side, even if it's limited. And North Carolina never shows up, which is my point in saying, I know people are talking, but not very much in terms of things that will actually get things to be moving. So it is pretty frustrating. But, outside of the tirade, a couple things this week that came up. Number one, a lot of our clients are really digging into the employee retention tax credit, just to see, is there anything back in 2020 that they could amend for and qualify for? And also, should they be doing it prospectively in 2021? Just a reminder that, if you're 20% down relative to the same calendar quarter prior year, then you qualify for the employee retention tax credit. So it's pretty close to whatever the PPP2 round guidelines were. And, I didn't actually read the article because I can never remember our CBJ login password, but evidently they came out with an article about taxability of employee retention tax credits. And we got, oh my God, I can't deduct the expenses. No, that's not the case. The employee retention tax credit currently acts just like every other tax credit, which is it's added back to your income. It's still very beneficial, because, if you think about it this way, I have $1 that I made. I pay $1 in tax. That creates 35 cents in tax, and I have a dollar for dollar tax credit against that tax. That's a good deal. So then only have 35 cents added back in to my income. That creates $9,000 in tax. So the way to think about that is that $35,000 credit does create $9,000 in tax in and of itself, because it's typically considered taxable income. And this doesn't matter if it's ERTC, research and development tax credit, the jobs credit, whatever it is. I mean, to my knowledge, somebody will fact check me on this. It's not Jack, because he'll say I don't do that. But tax credits, generally speaking, are considered income. But if you think about it, a $35,000 credit is taxable income, creates, call it $9,000 in tax. That's way better than having to have paid the $35,000 in tax in the first place from the credit. So I didn't read the article, and I don't know if we had some people that misinterpreted what it said, but I mean, that's the straight answer, is that you can deduct the expenses associated with it, but you have to pick up your credit as income. That was number one. I think the second thing too, it's only related in the sense that, hey, we have to pay for all this stuff somehow. But, with the infrastructure proposal that just got launched, there's a lot of ballyhoo about tax increases associated with it. And, you can assume that some more stuff will be coming out on it. But I just did want to say to the folks that are on the call that if people are asking questions, oh my gosh, what's going to happen to my tax rate? In the Biden proposal, the answer is nothing, unless you're a C corporation and you're a large C corporation, because the offsets to pay for the infrastructure bill, generally are, an increase in the corporate income tax rate from the current rate of 21% to 28%, which, that would stink for some of our clients, but C corporations are definitely in the minority there, and it's still better than the 35% that it was before. But the rest of it is all kind of big corporation, type stuff, which is, a repeal of the freebie on the repatriation of cash from offshore jurisdictions. And then the other one is a proposal to include a minimum tax on corporations above, I want to say it's $100 million on whatever their accounting income is instead of their taxable income. So what that would do is for companies like Apple, or Google, or God love them, that basically, set up foreign countries or foreign tax headquarters and pay taxes in those foreign jurisdictions at a lower rate than they pay in the U.S. This would say the end of that nonsense. You're going to pay them, but yet they show record profits on their financial statements. It would put it into that stuff, which, frankly, look, I'm a libertarian, but I generally kind of agree with that. It would be very hard to implement, but I generally don't have a problem with a concept like that, because you would get a credit somewhere else. It should be, kind of neutral to the corporation, even if it would mean less work for big accounting firms to figure out all those tax shenanigans. It's not really a tax strategy that's relevant for our size client base. So anyway, that's some good stuff that I had for this week.
Awesome. Jack, I'm sure you've got something, and we do have a question that even came in from Greg yesterday, I think. So We'll address that first up for you, Greg, but Jack, I'm sure you've got something.
Sure. So a couple things. First of all, I want to apologize for the emotional distress apparently that I have been inflicting on all of you watching, because as I was getting ready this morning on Good Morning America, they were talking about Zoom meetings and things like that, and that you can affect the impact of your viewers by what you're wearing. So while I'm not going to change myself because black is my favorite color, as you can see, including black shoes, 2 black labs, a black SUV, I made my background a little brighter than usual. So I'm not going to change me, but I'll change stuff around me for you. So couple things, good news, not April Fools, that President Biden did sign the extension into law. And so the extension goes for applications goes to May 31st. And then banks have a month to, actually the SBA has a month to process those. And so there was a little bit of 11th hour haggling back and forth on an amendment with respect to some things they wanted to throw in there. And luckily that didn't happen, because that would have really thrown it significantly backwards and it wouldn't have been extended. So I hear. Something else that is not April Fool's, but I read that in the next couple of days that President Biden is intending on raising the corporate tax rate. It's currently at 21%. I believe it was at 35%, and they're splitting the difference and bringing it to 28%. So, and then there's other things that are being repealed with respect to what I think most would say are pro-business. Tax advantages or tax treatment on certain things, but that's as far as I'll go with that, having tax professionals on the line as well. So just 2 things to take note of. We can go through some of the statistics, but I think why don't we just go ahead and get to the meat and potatoes of what people have asked about. But just generally speaking, the machine is still rolling. There's stuff that is happening. The numbers are increasing every week as far as the number of loans, number of forgiveness, the dollar amounts. I would say that even though that the extension has been extended to May, there's some thoughts that in doing the pro formas as to the money that is left and the number of people that are going to be applying, that there is some speculation that the money train will end sooner than May 31st unless more money is put into it, which is interesting because in prior weeks we've said, hey, there is a lot of money still left, and go after it. So that to me indicates that there has been a significant increase, and as we've discussed in prior discussions, that there's been an uptick in applications. So if you haven't, you need to sooner than later, even though you have until May 31st on paper to do it.
Right on. If you guys are all right with this, I'm going to go ahead and launch into this. I told Greg we'd hit it at the front end of this thing. So here's the background on his situation. I've got no basis in a company that I own 100%. And thus I'm not able to take any K1 loss on my 2020 tax return without recognizing the PPP loan forgiveness in 2020. North Carolina is adding PPP related expenses back into my income in 2020, yet I have received guidance from my tax CPA that I must recognize the federal loan forgiveness in 2021, causing a huge 2020 tax liability that will eventually reverse when my company returns to profitability and recognizes the PPP loans in the future. PPP loan forgiveness was on 3/5/2021. So here are the questions.
Yeah, go ahead.
North Carolina is mandating that all 2020 expenses related to a 2020 PPP loan must be added back to the federal AGI in 2020, regardless of whether formal forgiveness has been received or not, causing us to pay state income taxes on the loan in 2020 tax return as a permanent difference. Are you aware of any discussion in the North Carolina Senate, House, or other congressional body that's addressing it? So we did talk a little bit about that.
Welcome to the beginning of the tirade. So there's a couple things in your statement that I don't think are accurate, and I'll let Gary go through them, but that one unfortunately is accurate.
Yeah. the next question is there any precedent in the past where North Carolina's handling of a tax issue that egregiously disagreed with the federal handling, and North Carolina did or did not change their position versus the federal level?
Yeah. So again, we're unprecedented in the fact in the sense this was, you know, a stimulus in the middle of a pandemic. But if you look at, again, this is me being on a tirade, so you know, I guess nobody can punch me through a Zoom call. But if you look at North Carolina, and again, remember I'm a libertarian, so I pretty much think everybody's a hypocrite. Just to preface that, but you know, so what the Republican Assembly has done. I mean, you can make all the arguments you want about Democrats spent too much money foolishly, blah blah, that stuff. Probably so, but what the Republican administration did under Pat McCrory is they passed a tax decrease, a tax rate decrease. So corporate income tax rates went down, individual income tax rates went down, yet somehow we still ended up with a surplus. Well, how did that happen? Because they did the truffle shuffle. And the way they did the truffle shuffle is they eliminated, like everybody should remember, like when all of a sudden they got this notice saying, hey, I don't care what your federal dependents are, you need to change them for North Carolina. Well, that's because they got rid of a whole bunch of preference items like mortgage interest or limited, the credit for contributing to a 529, you know, for depreciation. You know, Gary can go buy an over 6,000 pound vehicle in the state of North Carolina and get an immediate write-off for tax purposes. On the IRS side, guess what? In North Carolina, no, you can't. It's deductible over 5 years. So that's why, you know, I'm not optimistic on this one, unfortunately, and I'm normally a pretty optimistic guy because, you know, it's been proven time. So our precedence is the General Assembly is freaking stupid when it comes to these topics relative to every other state around us, because South Carolina generally will conform to the IRS tax code with very limited differences. Yet North Carolina, you know, even when it's a timing difference, like depreciation, it's just a timing difference. You know, we stick it, you know, to you. To say that we gave you a tax rate reduction, when in reality, all we did is we moved some deck chairs in the Titanic. It's ridiculous. And this is one of those cases where, you know, it's you know, in the arguments that I got, it's funny, the arguments that we got back from my representative, John Bradford, who was not saying he agreed with his peers, but his peers were saying, oh, geez, if we allow for the deduction, that would be double dipping. That's the same crap that we heard at the federal level from the IRS that was rejected by all of our federally elected representatives and senators from the great state of North Carolina. Rejected. Yet, somehow locally, we must think that they're a bunch of morons that got it wrong. And somehow we're smarter, we got it right locally. Now, it's just a disguised way of saying we're fiscally responsible by grabbing some free money that we weren't otherwise expecting, you know, to keep our books in order, to show how awesome we are, that in the middle of pandemic, we still manage the government responsibly. It's just a freaking grab of free money so that in the future they can give us a tax rate decrease and say, ooh, we're so great. Sorry, that's my cynicism. Jack, don't get me fired.
Well, the Secret Service hasn't come looking for us yet from the past couple of weeks, so I think we're okay, because that was pretty extreme. Yeah.
I haven't insulted the president. That's just the North Carolina State General Assembly, and I'm guessing that they're not. If they can't even get their crap in order to get this done, they're not going to get their crap in order to come find me.
All right.
Well, and they're going to be confused because they're going to go to your house or my house looking for you because of that background and vice versa. We got them all confused. Right. So he goes on with these questions. There is AICPA guidance that says recognition of the loan forgiveness should match the period in which the related PPP expenses were incurred. All my expenses were incurred in 2020. I received formal loan forgiveness on 3/5/2021. So 3 questions. A, which year, 2020 versus 21, should I recognize the loan forgiveness in? 2, what is the argument for the answer in number 1 above? So is it 2020 or 2021?
Yeah, so I'll just tell you what we're doing. That might just cut to the chase on the answers. So Gary, you keep me honest. So basically, all the guidance has been consistent that you're supposed to recognize the income in the year that you actually spent the money, which would be for pretty much everybody 2020. That's A. B, they've been pretty clear that the loan that you should have basis associated with the loan. So I don't know what, like, this should be additive to your basis. So I don't know what's going on there with your loss. So we've tacked it on to people's basis. So outside of that, I think your CPA is probably right with your CPA is right with North Carolina taxability. I think they got it wrong on the basis piece.
Yeah, and earlier on, he had said that he had no basis in this company that he owns 100% of.
Yeah, it's supposed to be additive to basis.
And the final thing was, and you may have answered this, is there IRS or Treasury guidance on your answer number 1 that you're aware of outside of the 3/15/2021 AICPA letter to the IRS?
Yeah, I'm not actually familiar with that exact letter, but everything issued from the Treasury Department has been consistent with what I just said.
Okay. All right. More questions are rolling in here. The first one, or the next one, is from Bob. Will Biden kill the 20% discount for earnings in an LLC or an S corporation and cause us to pay tax on 100% instead of 80% of K1 income?
So, one could kind of assume that that's potentially coming. So when Biden said he wants to repeal all of the Tax Cuts Job Act, I mean, that's part of it, and then his counterback is, and we'll just modify the C corporation rates to 28% instead of the old 35%, which is what Jack was pointing out. So I think we've been telling our clients that, look, it's still here today. I think generally they're going to try to keep permanent, my guess would be they'll try to keep permanent the parity between S corporations and C corporations in terms of the amount of tax they pay. But I could see it coming that eventually that's removed. But maybe not. I'm optimistic.
Okay, next question is, back on March 11th, we received an email from a famous CPA firm that helps people save money, make money, stay out of trouble, and have fun while they're doing it, AKA BGW. That summarized the American Rescue Plan. The last bullet point mentioned the following: $10 billion through a reauthorized state small business credit initiative program for state governments to help leverage private capital and make low interest loans and other investments to help their small business economies recover. Do you have any more information on this?
Can you repeat that one again?
Yeah. And I think we pulled this information straight from some of the bullet points from the American Rescue Plan, but it said the last bullet point mentioned the following: $10 billion through a reauthorized state small business credit initiative program for state governments to help leverage private capital and make low interest loans and other investments to help their small business economies recover. Do you have any more info?
I'm not personally aware of anything. and I'll be honest, I know that there have been a lot of other local programs that are out there. I just am not as familiar with what each one of them actually is.
And I'm not familiar specifically with that one, but I will say that there is more money. There's money going to other places towards government entities, state and local, to provide for different avenues of funding. I will say that it looks like that is geared towards those who may not have had an opportunity for funding from more mainstream lenders for whatever reason. And so it is geared towards, in many cases, minority business owners, disadvantaged business owners, and those who have not been able to apply, maybe because they don't have a relationship with a bank, or have tried a couple of times. So the different programs have different parameters that are managed by state and local county governments. But I would continue to, and as we've said many times on this program, continue to look into at least on a weekly basis, if not more often, just to see what's out there, because you have organizations like Foundation for the Carolinas and other local and even privately funded through their 501c3 foundations, some of the larger companies, not just the banks, not just Lowe's and Home Depot and others, but other companies that are headquartered in the Carolinas who are funneling private money into their 501c3, and then they have that money being managed possibly through government agencies or quasi-government agencies like the Central Ina Foundation, so Central Ina Council of Governments, essentially. So look into those things, because and those things are changing all the time. There's more money that is coming in from new sources. There's also money that's being replenished through other avenues. So and privately, but then also through, as you see, the state funnel that comes down to help individual business owners.
Yeah, what I would do too is this was from an anonymous attendee, but if you are in the Charlotte region, I would reach out to Joe Bost, B-O-S-T, at the Charlotte Regional Business Alliance, because to Joe's credit, he responded back to us this morning after I'd sent a note to the Charlotte Regional Business Alliance on the 18th, I think, of March, but he was the one that responded to me this morning. So it's jbost@charlotteregion.com if you want to email, jbost@charlotteregion.com. So hopefully that helps.
Yeah.
Next question concerning.
Actually, can we go back, Gary?
Yeah.
And I apologize. I had to ask you for the restatement because I was pulling a Jack and Googling something. So I did go back and I looked at the three. And it's funny. We just didn't pay attention to the letter because we'd already taken a position as a firm. I mean, the way to think about it is there's two. With the IRS, if you look at the subject of base, I know this is like a deep topic, but it matters to a lot of people that took distributions in 2020 and what their CPAs are currently saying to them. If you look at the IRS, when they originally proposed when you could not deduct the expenses, it was when paid and incurred. So we took the position as a firm that, well, look, if you already thought it was paid as incurred for that, it makes sense that it would be paid as incurred for the purposes of tacking on your basis, regardless of whether you've received the actual forgiveness or not, because that's just a matter of how fast did the bank process your loan, not whether or not you truly thought it was going to be forgiven or not. Regardless, it's also just a timing difference between, do I get it in 2020 or do I get it in 2021? So generally speaking, in our experience, and I'm knocking on real wood right now, the IRS doesn't mess around with timing differences unless there's a pretty substantial rate change difference. So, we took what would be considered the aggressive position based on our experience. And it sounds like your CPA is taking the will until they tell me specifically that I can, I'm not. Our firm takes a position that until they tell me that I can't, I will.
All right. Going back to this next question concerning the PPP loan forgiveness, if you are forgiven, do we include the loan forgiven, the loan amount forgiven in income and associated expenses as expenses?
Yeah, it literally is just an add back on your personal. This is assuming that it's a pass-through entity. It's just an add back on your personal income tax return for the income piece. So it's like the tax return presents like the tax return presents, and then there's a line that you add things back in for the purposes of North Carolina.
Okay. We have exhausted the questions that have either been emailed in or hit through the Q&A. So the queue is open. Hit us.
While they're thinking of additional questions and going back to the question about other money. So this is kind of indirect relief for business owners. I mean, I consider it indirect, which is this $2 trillion infrastructure plan. That money is trickling down. I mean, what that means is if you're in certain industries, that there's going to be work that is out there. So for example, and I was looking for the article and I found it, $621 billion to modernize transportation, $400 billion for care for the aging, disabilities, $300 billion to boost manufacturing, $213 billion on retrofitting and building affordable housing, $100 billion to expand broadband access. I mean, and they go on and say, you know, what all these things are, and looking into, you know, Charlotte-Mecklenburg has a 2040 plan. They talk about a federal 2035 plan for certain industries. So, you know, those are opportunities. Again, I call those indirect because it's not actually putting money in your pocket. It is putting money into a pool that provides jobs and work for certain businesses and certain industries. And it's a broad range of things. So just wanted to share that.
So what you're saying is even Democrats believe in trickle-down economics.
Yes.
They
They don't call it that, but yes.
What you described sounds that way. All right, I'm going to move along. Here's the next question. For those of us who have received...
Look, Gary, even George Bush called it voodoo economics. Ferris Bueller reference for the day.
All right. For those of us who have received a $150,000 EIDL loan, I understand that there's a possibility of getting that increased to $500,000. Who's eligible and how do we apply?
So that's a great question that, you know, again, it was supposed to be information released in weeks, and now we're like going on a month. So I haven't heard of any new guidance from the SBA. If someone on the call actually has, that'd be great. But what the guidance said is that you're supposed to get an email from the SBA saying how you can get more money. Same way that you got an email saying here's your advance or here's your loan amount. So to my knowledge, I don't know of anybody that's received that email yet, but that's what the SBA guidance says that you're supposed to receive, is an email that says, here's what you're supposed to do. But there with some further details, but you know, that and the restaurant grant money is still, if I had a crickets, it's sort of like the North Carolina taxability PPP. If I had a crickets sound effect, I'd be playing it right now.
And that is a great stalling. Because I did pull up the SBA to see if there's any new press releases. The last press release on that increase from 150 to 500 came out on March 24th, and I'm not seeing any additional press releases, which brings up the point that the SBA, regardless of maybe some criticism on how it rolls things out, it tries to keep information out there, even if it's just saying more to come, more to come, more to come, but at least that lets you know that it hasn't come yet. So there is a press release section where if you do, like I just did a quick search for EIDL loan increase, and it popped right, the first thing that popped up was that press release. So that's a good way of just kind of gut checking what's going on.
So you're teaching us your expert Googling secrets.
Well, you know, it's all about education and information, and yeah. But it's artful when you have a 3-person team to, what I call the subliminally overt, like you just did a little while ago about the BGW little commercial about how, that's subliminally overt, and that's my term. I copyrighted it, and so I expect a royalty every time you use that. But it's the things that are said or you see that are right in front of you, but the underlying message is subliminal until you actually need to access that neuron that it's stored in.
Well, if you want to take it to the next level and trademark it, I know a good trademark attorney.
Oh, good. Hope he or she knows what they're doing.
Yeah. Any other questions out there for the subliminally overt Jack Santaniello or Adam Boatsman? I don't see anything else. If you
I have a
do
recommendation for both of you, though, that you better leave each other's houses before your spouses find out that you guys are hanging out in each other's houses.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. It's funny.
And leave everything where you found it.
Hey, I'm back.
Wait.
Oh, man.
It's like, what's not the same between the two pictures?
He's back. One of our guys, he and his wife office in the same place at their house. And so he usually has the Space Needle or whatever from Seattle. And so I sent him a screen grab of my background, and he changed it to where instead of just do it on like my license tag that I used to have up in Ohio, his says, did it. Which I thought was pretty good. All right. Anybody that came on here late, you know the drill probably, but I'll reiterate it. And that is, we'll put it up on the BGW CPA YouTube channel. And next week, Adam, I know you're going to be having some fun in the sun. Are you still going to be back or are we taking a hiatus?
No, I'll be able to do it from down there. And that's, in theory, we're all going to make it. My youngest son, Miles, 15, tested positive on Tuesday. So he's actively working on trying to get symptom free. I'm getting tested tomorrow. It's funny, our exposure window was in the car ride. That's a nice background check. That's definitely making me anxious. Our exposure window was in the car ride to all get our first shots. So
really?
I'm getting tested tomorrow to find out whether or not I'm positive or not. I don't have any symptoms or anything, but so then some of us might go down. He might come down later. We might not be able to go. So the CMS spring break is currently in flux.
Oh, wow. Man, that is rough.
Yeah.
We had a similar experience for our spring break was 2 weeks ago. The Friday afternoon notification that my son had been in close contact with someone at school, and they were picking them off one by one in class. And so, that wasn't fun. And I get my second shot on Thursday. So I would like to, at this moment in the recording, disclaim anything that I might say that is inaccurate, hopefully not inappropriate, but so, because I think I'll be okay. Morning, the symptoms show up, a couple hours later, more than a couple hours, it's 8 hours later. So.
Well, Pierce has just weighed in on the chat. He said the gestation period is generally 5 days for COVID exposure.
Yeah, that's why we're going on Friday.
So, oh man.
Well, good
I
luck
was
with
in
that.
a pickup cab with my neighbor in the beginning of December, and we drove all the way to Gastonia and back, and he had it. And he's like, hey, we'll just mask up. I've just got some sniffles. It's probably nothing, but just to be safe. Oh yeah, he had it. And thank God I never got it. His wife did, but I didn't. So who knows? It's just such a weird thing. I hope you guys avoid it, and I hope he gets past it. I still wonder if if your wife and your daughter had it early a year ago.
That's what we're thinking.
Yeah, it just seems that way based on what they were experiencing. But man, all right. Well, I could have counted on Robert Mayetta to have weighed in on some of those facts because he's like Cliff Clavin, man. He just has the data. But he's out serving a client today, probably. So, but he's very good about getting us additional information and a lot more questions, which is good. That's what we're here to do. Try to serve. So anyway, we will be back next week, Lord willing. Enjoy April Fools. Don't get too crazy out there, but have some fun with it. Thanks for being on this with us. We appreciate each and every one of you. Anything before we go, Jack, Adam?
All good. Everybody stay safe and healthy.
All right. You guys take care.
Yeah.
Thanks again for joining us.
Thank you.
Guys.